Hi, you guys. I just wanted to touch base because I didn't get a chance to talk about some of the tools and tricks and dietary changes that I was able to implement that is ultimately what helped me to lose the 250 pounds. I mean, anybody that has heard my story knows that I absolutely give credit to God first and foremost for causing the change to happen in my mind and waking me up to the reality that I was turning to food when I should have been turning to Him. So, but I just wanted to take a couple of minutes. Hopefully, I don't run too long, but you know how I tend to talk. Um, to go ahead and just talk about a lot of the things that I was able to implement. A lot of it was trial and error for me. I had been big my entire life, and at this point, I was 450 pounds, which is no small feat. I asked my doctor how much weight I would need to lose to be a normal weight for my height. Now, I am pretty tall, I'm 5'11", but he told me I would need to lose 270 pounds, which is quite a bit of weight. That is a daunting task for anybody to ask anybody to do. But I knew that God was at work in me and I knew that He was going to make this happen. And I just needed to commit and stick to it. So the first thing that God showed me was that I need accountability. I need to be accountable. I'm obviously accountable to God, I'm accountable to myself. But in order to be accountable to myself, I needed to know what I was starting with. I mean, I was 450 pounds. I had been big my whole life. I always ate. I ate whatever I wanted. I ate all the time, day and night. Didn't matter if I was hungry, didn't matter if I was full. Honestly, I don't recall ever feeling my stomach growl, ever, when I was 450 pounds. So, whether or not I actually avoided food long enough to get hungry is anybody's guess. I think I probably didn't. I pretty much ate all the time. So, the first thing that I did to hold myself accountable is I got a little notebook at the dollar store. It doesn't have to be an expensive notebook. And what I did was I wrote down, now this is going to show up backwards to you guys, but I wrote down everything that I ate in a day. My frame of thinking was if I write down what I eat and I eat less calories and less carbs, then I should automatically lose weight without really trying, right? I mean, that's numbers. That just makes sense. If you eat less, you will lose weight. If you eat more than normal, you will gain weight, right? I mean, that's pretty simple math. So the first thing I did was the accountability of actually writing it down, which also made me have to weigh and measure my foods because I needed to know exactly how much I was eating. And then I would write that food down. And there were times when I would write it down and go, whoa, that is way too many calories, and I need to rethink this. So I had a habit of writing it down before I actually completely ate the food because sometimes it needed to change. Um, but in the beginning here, this is the date that I pulled up. Let me see, is April 3rd, it says in my book. And at that time, I was a little over 2 months, I think, into this change. But what I did the first day, I decided I need to just write down what I eat. I didn't change my diet. I didn't change anything. I just literally wrote down everything that I ate for the day. And then I added up the calories. And that night, I sat down and did the math. And it was disgusting. It really was. The first day, now I didn't change anything. I just ate like normal. I ate over 6,000 calories and 273 grams of carbs. That is a lot of food. And I am pretty certain that I didn't eat as much as I normally did because I was writing it down. And I recall literally almost filling a whole sheet of notebook paper with what I had eaten that day. So that was a real wake up call to me, because in hindsight, I think, why wasn't I a lot bigger? I mean, that's a lot of calories. So my first order of business was eat less than 6,000 calories. So I told myself, let's drop it to 4,000 calories. Um, so I tried to eat 4,000 calories max, and I lowered my carb content to 200 grams. Now, 200 grams of carbs is a lot of carbs. This page that I'm looking at, my total for that day was 180 carbs, which is a lot, but I was to stay under 200, and I did. Now, my calories for this day, this is really interesting, were only 1,099 calories. Now, I had up to 4,000 calories I could eat, but something that I learned really early on is the foods that are high in carbohydrates don't make you feel full. So crackers and things with lots of sugar and lots of grains, so crackers and breads and cookies and donuts, and those things are high in calories. So I had the calories, I could eat 4,000, but they don't keep you full very long. They actually make you feel like you're hungry even when you shouldn't be. So I learned pretty early on that I almost didn't need to watch my calories. They kind of took care of themselves. I did make a point, it was something that God pressed on me very early on, that I should not eat unless my stomach is growling and I'm actually hungry. So because I was a food addict, and I am a food addict, I still battle it. It's hard because I didn't always understand what that felt like to be hungry, and how do I know when my body needs food. And that was something that God had to show me, that He made my body and it would tell me when it needs food. And so when my stomach would growl, that to me was permission that I could go ahead and eat something. And so I would go ahead and have something to eat. Um, and I would limit myself to a normal portion. So, when you buy a bag of chips and you look at the back and it says 14 servings, and one serving might be 1 ounce usually for potato chips. Um, I would actually take out my food scale when I would buy the potato chips and measure out 1 ounce of weight in a little bowl, and then I would put it into a sandwich bag, and I would do that with the entire bag of chips. And no kidding, you actually get 14 servings out of the bag of chips. I didn't think it really would work out, but it actually does. So there actually is 14 servings, even though, for me it used to be like one or two, because I would sit down and mindlessly eat. So you need to be accountable to your food. So keep yourself accountable. Make sure you're writing it down, because if you're not honest with yourself, you're never going to know what it takes to lose that weight. You're never going to know if you've been obedient for that day to God, if you don't write it down somewhere. Now, there are apps on the market. My favorite, that I have logged my food every single day for like 3.5 years without missing a day. My favorite app is called MyFitnessPal. It is considered a calorie counter, but you can scan the barcode of the food and it will automatically enter all of the information about calories and fat and sodium. And it's really nice to be able to look at it all at once and see what your totals for the day are. I generally sit down when I have my morning coffee after I spend time alone with God in prayer and in my Bible. I will sit down with this app and I will enter my food for the entire day. I will enter how many cups of coffee I'm going to have for breakfast. I will enter what I intend to eat for lunch and what I intend to eat for dinner that day. And then I will look at the totals. And if it doesn't look good and the carbs are too high or the calories are too high, I can go back and adjust the foods and go, I need a little more protein. So instead of having a salad, maybe I'll add some chicken breast on that salad, or maybe I will have um, just a piece of chicken for lunch with a little broccoli instead of a big salad with no meat. Or you could just add some boiled eggs to your salad or some cheese or whatever it takes to add that protein that I think I need to keep myself healthy. Um, but knowing where you're starting from is so important, because if you don't know what you're eating right now, then how do you know what to lower it to? And I just lowered it a little bit. Now, granted, I shaved off 2,000 calories, but I actually didn't struggle to stay with that, because staying under the 200 carbs kept me making better decisions. So this day where I had 180 carbs, I wound up with 1 cup of egg beaters for breakfast, a cup of coffee with sugar-free French vanilla coffee creamer, 2 tablespoons of ketchup, and then I had an oatmeal raisin muffin, which must have been a mini because it was only 88 calories. And then for lunch, I had chicken breast, carrots, roasted cabbage, and roasted potatoes. So I mean, I was eating potatoes. Like, I don't eat potatoes now because I've lost enough weight that I've had to lower that number so much more in order to keep losing weight. And I will get with you guys on that in a minute. And then for dinner, again, I had chicken and carrots and roasted cabbage and roasted potatoes. And then I have listed as a snack a communion wafer and a half an ounce of grape juice. So evidently that was a day that I took communion. And I mean, I count everything that goes in my mouth, every piece of gum, every mint, every sip of water, every drink or taste of anything. And because I don't want to always be bothered with writing it down or pulling out my phone and entering it in the app, that saves me so many bites and tastes of things when I'm cooking for my family. So that is a little trick there too, to keep you out of the pot while you're making soup. And, you know, every bite will eventually add up, and it can pack on some weight if you're not careful. Also for a snack, I had 6 ounces of watermelon. Now, 6 ounces of watermelon is kind of a lot of fruit. But watermelon is very low in calories, but it is high in carbs. So my carbs are very high. And then I had a medium banana as well that day. So my calories were only barely over 1,000. My protein was at 96, which is a pretty good amount of protein. And I wrote down that I drank 0 water, which is not good. I had to work on that quite a long time before I got my water intake in. And then I wrote down exercise, that my Fitbit registered 3,005 steps. So I wear a Fitbit. I always wear a Fitbit to keep track. And it took me a long time before I hit that 10,000 steps per day. But I'm happy to say that now my goal on my Fitbit, it does not go off until I hit 20,000 steps a day. So little steps though. You don't have to change everything all at once. You can make a small change. Okay? Everybody thinks that it's so daunting. You just have to, throw away all the foods you love and eat all these terrible foods that you've never enjoyed. And if you do that, it's not going to last. You are not going to be able to stick with eating foods that you don't enjoy when you're a food addict. Like, that doesn't even make sense. We have to eat to live, but we don't have to be obsessed with food, and we don't have to make it an idol, and we don't have to run to it for comfort. If you know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you have a comforter. We have the Holy Spirit, who is called the Comforter, residing inside of us. Along with the Holy Spirit comes the gift of self-control. Now, this was something that God showed me early on too, that really it upset me. I mean, he convicted me about turning to food when I should have been coming to him. And I found myself constantly saying, I don't have any self-control. I can't do this. And one day I kept saying it repeatedly. I said it over and over to different people throughout the day. And every time I picked up my Bible, checked my email for my daily scripture, turned on the radio in my car, 3 times that day, somebody in some facet was talking about the fact that the Holy Spirit gives us the gift of self control. That if you have the Holy Spirit, you have self control. So it dawned on me that if I have self control and I'm not using it, then either I don't have the Holy Spirit and I don't have self control, or I am purposefully and willfully not taking advantage of something that I have. And why would I do that? I mean, it's what I need. I need self-control. We all need self-control, and not just with food. I need it with my temper. I need it with my work ethic. I need to have self-control. It's so when I grocery shop, like there's crazy people in the stores, and if you don't have self-control, you would be in prison. Like people make you angry. When you're driving, road rage, you have self-control. Don't lose control of yourself. We are told to die to our flesh. And self-control is a gift of the Holy Spirit, and it will absolutely help you with that. So another thing, so my first order of business was to eat 4,000 calories and under 200 grams of carbs. Um, every month or two, it depends. If I found out that I went like 2 weeks and hit my goal and I didn't feel like I even had to try anymore, like it just came naturally that I was automatically under my carbs and under my calories and it became easy and just a way of life for me, then I would step that down some. So then I might drop it to 3,000 calories and maybe drop it to 150 grams of carbs. And then maybe a month or two later, I would go down to 2,500 calories and 100 grams of carbs. Eventually, I came to a point where I was around 2,000 calories and 50 grams of carbs. And it took me a good 6 months of staying under 2,000 calories and under 50 grams of carbs. Before it took me a good 6 months before I really mastered that level. So I think after 50 carbs, I dropped it maybe to like 40 and then 30 and then 20. Now, 20 grams of carbs does not allow for things like potatoes or carrots or corn or bananas or apples. Um, and that stinks because I love fruit and I love vegetables, but I can have those things. I mean, they're vegetables and fruit. Like they're not bad for you. But what I have done is I used to sit down and eat 6 ounces of watermelon and a banana. I would never do that. One banana has like over 30 grams of carbs. So one banana would be a day and a half of food for me. Um, I need to eat more than a banana for a day and a half. So it's not a matter of I can't have a banana. If I am craving a banana, my first order of business is to ask myself, what is in a banana that I'm potentially missing that my body is asking for? Well, bananas are loaded with potassium, first of all. So if I have been drinking a lot of water and been exercising a lot, it's my potassium could be low. So at that point, I might go get a 0 calorie sports drink, like a Powerade Zero that doesn't have any sugar in it, and drink one of those and see if that craving passes. There's something that is important to remember is that cravings for food, um, if they're food specific, if you're craving a certain thing, that is not hunger, that's a craving. It could mean that you're lacking in nutrition in a certain area. So always keep that in mind that you may need to find out, what is in chocolate. Now, if you're craving a donut, you're not missing anything. You want sugar. You're addicted to sugar. Um, but if you're actually hungry, any food will do. And what I mean by that is if I'm hungry and or if I'm having a craving and all I can think about is pizza, I'm not going to be happy eating a plain chicken breast, right? Because I want pizza. That is a craving, that is not hunger. If I'm hungry and I feel hungry and I've been hungry for an hour and I want to eat, I will be satisfied and quite happy eating a chicken breast because my ultimate goal is to not be hungry any longer. And a chicken breast will do that for me. And so it will taste good and it will be satisfying and I'll be fine with that. So that's important to remember that your cravings could mean you're lacking nutritionally. I definitely recommend most people take some sort of a multivitamin. It's hard to eat enough food to get all of the nutrients that we really need in a day. Um, but also, along with accountability, I take a screenshot every single night. And I have two girlfriends. The one is the blonde that everybody thought was my sister that came with me when I spoke at your church. She and another friend of mine who is a food addict and battling this addiction, the three of us send each other screenshots of all of the food and all of the nutrients of everything we ate for the day every single day. So at the end of the day, before I go to bed, I take screenshots and I send them to these two ladies, and they give me feedback. They will say, "Hey, wow, like great day. That was awesome." And sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's like, whoa, you went and had Mexican, like who'd you go with? Like when they see that you had Mexican food for lunch or something, right? So then they're like, who'd you go out to lunch with? So it's kind of comical sometimes. And there's other days where if my carbs are super high, or if they see that I ate 3 donuts and didn't eat lunch or dinner, like all I ate for the whole day was 3 donuts, something is going on that day, like something not good, because that's not the normal. It's not something I would ordinarily do. And it's obviously I am either deep in depression or, something catastrophic has happened in my life. And like one of my kids went and was put in the hospital, and I was stuck there all day and didn't have access to any food except for the 3 donuts the nurses brought into me or something, So, but having that accountability partner, you'll find somebody that you trust, somebody that will root for you, somebody who wants you healthy. Not everybody around you is going to want you healthy. And that sounds awful, but it's the truth. You will have people that have been enablers in your life, and you will have people that are battling their own food addiction. And when they see you taking control of that and relying on God to get your addiction under control, it will convict them. And a lot of times they will lash out at you and even attempt to sabotage your efforts. So be mindful of that and be careful who you really hold yourself accountable to, that it's somebody who understands what you're going through and understands what it's like to be an addict. Um, you know, so another tip that has really, really helped me is another notebook. I know I'm all about writing stuff down. Um, I keep track of my weight every day. So I'm not going to show that too fast because I don't want you to see my numbers because, I'm still not there. But what I do is I weigh myself first thing in the morning, and then I weigh myself right before bed. I keep the scale in my bedroom so that I cannot weigh myself all day long and be obsessed with it. Some people, you have to know yourself here. I am fine weighing every morning and every night. And that seems obsessive to some people. Some people say, oh no, you should only weigh once a week or you should only weigh once a month. For me, I can get too far away if I don't keep myself accountable every single day with my weight. So I weigh myself in the morning and then I weigh myself at night. Now, something that this allows me to do is to see trends. I can tell that at certain times of the month that I will gain anywhere from 5 to 10 pounds. And that weight usually stays with me until a couple days past that event. Girls know what I'm talking about. Um, and that's good knowledge because if I am doing everything right and I'm drinking all of the water I should and I'm eating the foods I should and I'm getting some exercise and I am gaining 2 pounds every day for 3 days in a row, my first inclination is not, forget this, it's not working, I'm going to go eat a cheesecake. No, my first inkling is to look back and go, wait a minute, maybe that cycle is coming up. And then I will check a calendar and go, oh, yeah, it should happen at any moment. And then I can kind of relax and go, it's okay. Stay the course. I actually have the words stay the course with an exclamation point written on my scale, like as a reminder to myself to just whatever this number says, it doesn't matter. Just stay the course. This isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. This is your life. This is hopefully, if you are submitting a food addiction to God, this is not something that is going to last for a month or 6 months or a year once you lose the amount of weight you think you should lose. No, this is your life. We are to live a life in obedience to God. So this is you have the rest of your life to figure this stuff out. Now, obviously, figuring it out sooner rather than later is better, because a lot of us, once we get to be so overweight, we have disabilities. We have uh, achy joints. I mean, I would literally put my feet to the floor in the morning and want to cry. Like my knees and my feet ached and my back. I was in so much pain on a regular basis. I was told for 8 years that I had fibromyalgia. About 2 months into kicking the grains and the sweets out of my diet, all of my joint pain was gone, and they declared me cured. And they said they'd never seen anybody be cured of fibromyalgia. And I'm like, because I didn't have it. I had really bad eating habits, and they caught up to me, and they made me feel really bad because you are what you eat, essentially. You really are. So another thing that I do to help keep me on track and to help me to it kind of makes things easier for me is meal prep. Now, there's many ways you can do it. I have various containers. This one's got 3 compartments, so maybe maybe I would leave this empty, or maybe I would put my protein here and a couple different vegetables. Um, and then I have other ones that only have 2 compartments, and with this one, I would do protein here maybe and do a lot of vegetables over there. I have some smaller ones. This holds about 2 cups. I would use this for some sort of a soup, or stew or chili or something like that. And then I also have snack ones. Now, I get these at Dollar Tree, so they're $1 each, which is a great price. But the thing that's interesting about these is they are in 3 compartments. So what I use these for is, you can see that, I make them into little snack containers. So this one has on it, if you can see, it has some turkey breast rolled up, and then there's some chunks of cheese, and then I believe those are smoked almonds. I love almonds. So it's nuts, cheese, and meat. I think that one was like around 160 calories, but that's something that you can keep, make a week's worth of them. And I actually throw those in the freezer. And then in the morning when I leave my house, if I'm going to go grocery shopping or shopping with a friend for the day, I will grab one of these out of my freezer and toss it in my purse. And that way, if I'm starving and it's not lunchtime yet, I have that in my purse. And usually within an hour, it's thawed and it stays pretty cold for a while. So I would have a snack that is good for me, that I know what's in it. I know the calories. I know the carbs. I know everything that's in it. Um, so it's just really helpful. Now with the meal preps, the various containers, here's an example of some that I did. And you can see there is meat and vegetables. This one appears to be some sort of flavored chicken breast with um, probably a cup and a half of broccoli. It's quite a bit of broccoli in there. And then rice pilaf with carrots added to it. And then some of them had a different vegetable. Some of them had the California blend with the carrots, the cauliflower, and the broccoli. But the nice thing about meal prepping, besides the fact that you automatically have these meals, and I would make these and I would throw them in my freezer. I would make a big batch of the chicken and a big batch of the vegetables and the rice and everything, and I would put them in the containers. And I usually, let me see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 in this picture, probably because I ate one that day for lunch when I was making it. But I usually would make 14 of them, and that will give me a week of lunch and dinner. Now, some people will say, oh, I can't eat the same thing for lunch and dinner for an entire week. Well, that's fine. I don't enjoy doing that either. But when I first started, that one tool helped me more than anything else, because I got really bored eating chicken and broccoli and rice pilaf by probably day 2 of dinner. So I had it for lunch and dinner on day 1, lunch and dinner on day 2, and by day 3, I wasn't even looking forward to lunch. And when you're a food addict, you look forward to the next meal. I would sometimes be eating a meal and be planning the next meal. So that one thing of the meal prep and eating the same thing over and over for a week actually served me really well, because I found that because I wasn't looking forward to that meal, I didn't eat that meal unless I was genuinely hungry. And once I was genuinely hungry and I ate it, I did enjoy it. I mean, I'm not saying that you should eat foods you don't like. In fact, I would tell people don't do that because that's not a real lasting change that you're going to be able to make. So, and that brings me to my next point. Something else I did. Again, this is going to be backwards. I made a list of foods and I listed foods that I love. And I just simply wrote them out on notebook paper. A few of them are things like ribeye steak, buffalo wings, chicken parmesan, chicken fettuccine alfredo, tacos, macaroni and cheese, mashed potatoes, cabbage rolls, meatloaf, maple brown sugar oatmeal. Okay. So, and then I listed desserts, some cheesecake and donuts and peanut butter cups and gummy bears and gummy worms. Okay. So I listed things that I love. Then I went through the list, and you can see, even though it's backwards, that some of them are circled and some of them are squared. And some of the circled ones have little stars next to them, little asterisks. Now, what I did was I circled all of the foods that I love. These are just foods that I enjoy eating, that I want to eat and I'm happy eating. I circled all of the ones that are already naturally low in carbs. They don't have grains or not a lot of them. They don't have sugar. So things like the ribeye steak, the buffalo wings, um, cabbage rolls and meatloaf. Now those have rice and meatloaf will usually have some sort of breadcrumb. And so those I put an asterisk, which means that it's naturally low in carbs, but the asterisk tells me that I may need to change out one or two of the ingredients. So when I make cabbage rolls, instead of adding white rice to my meat mixture, I will actually grate some cauliflower. So I use a cauliflower rice and I get the little white bits in there and it helps to bind it all together. It adds extra moisture to the meat mixture for the cabbage rolls or for your stuffed peppers. But ultimately, rice was the only thing in a cabbage roll that wasn't already low in carbs. So I circled the ones that already are low in carbs, but then I also put squares around ones that are not low in carbs, but that I don't want to live without. So I have squares around things like mashed potatoes and maple brown sugar oatmeal. I loved oatmeal, okay? And that is a huge when you're going off grains because it is loaded in carbs. So I probably couldn't have eaten a bowl of oatmeal when my carbs had to be under 150 grams a day because it has so many carbs. Okay. But anything that I squared that is bad for me, but I don't want to live without, I found a way to find an alternative that I can be happy about. So with the maple brown sugar oatmeal, I have figured out a recipe using ground flaxseed, which sounds disgusting, kind of. But I also put a square around cream of wheat because I loved cream of wheat and I loved oatmeal. Um, and what I found is that if I use ground flaxseed, it has every 2 tablespoons or every tablespoon of it has 4 grams of carbs and 4 grams of fiber. Now, it technically has carbs, but I go by net carbs, which means I take the carbs and I subtract the fiber. Now, why that works is because your body cannot digest insoluble fiber. So, if a food has fiber in it, you are not absorbing those carbs from that because of that fiber. So, that fiber will grab that amount of carbs and take it with it and process it through your body, and you won't absorb the carbs from it. So the flaxseed has 4 grams of carbs and 4 grams of fiber, which is zero net carbs. So basically, I keep track of calories too, but basically, I could essentially eat as much flaxseed as I want. Now, flaxseed is loaded with omega 3 fatty acids. It is a complete protein. Um, it's just as good for you as fish. It has lots of protein. It has lots of fiber. It has antioxidants. It actually kills cancer. It lowers cholesterol. I mean, it is really good for you. And I take the flaxseed and put it in a bowl and I add a brown sugar substitute. which also has no carbs and no calories, and it tastes exactly like brown sugar. It's made by a company called Swerve. It's a sugar alternative that your body does not absorb, and it doesn't affect your glycemic index. So if you are a diabetic or pre-diabetic because of your weight problem, it's a great alternative. It tastes just like brown sugar. So I add that, and then I will add a pinch of salt just to kind of bring out the sweetness. And then I add boiling water until it is the consistency of a hot cereal like oatmeal or cream of wheat. And then I top it with a sugar-free maple syrup. And I am telling you, my daughter, who we nicknamed Junk Food Junkie, she's really thin, but she had bad eating habits, and she's a really picky eater. She would rather just not eat than to have to eat food she doesn't like. Every time I make this stuff, she is on me like a hawk. Like I make 2 bowls. I don't even try to eat it in front of her anymore because she wants some. So I just automatically make 2 bowls, and if she doesn't eat it, then I just put it in the fridge and might save it for another day. Um, but something to remember, from one food addict to another, it is not your job to eat all the leftovers. It is not your job to clean your plate. You don't have to eat everything that you're given. And that is a hard thing. I have 4 kids, and we don't have a lot of money, and food is expensive. It just is. And I hate the idea of throwing away food. And so I don't. I still don't throw away food. But what I've learned is I don't have to eat it all in one day either. Most things freeze really well. So don't be afraid, if you have half a chicken breast and maybe a cup of broccoli and, a little bit of mixed vegetables, throw it in one of your meal prep containers and pop it in the freezer, label it. Um, you know, be purposeful when you eat. Eat the stuff that you already love. Don't focus on the foods that you can't eat. The thing is, all food is permissible. All The Bible says everything is permissible, but everything is not profitable. And that's the truth of it. Not all food is good for us. And not all food is God honoring. It's not. There is nothing that honors God about sitting down and binging on food because you're feeling lonely or because you're feeling unloved. Those are times when you need to get on your face and cry out to the God that loves you more than life itself. I mean, he died for us. There is no greater love than to lay your life down for somebody. And he did that for us. So we can run to him with those heartaches. Food is not going to fill that void in your life. It won't. All it will do is temporarily relieve some of your anxiety and your feelings. And then once you realize what you've eaten, if you're anything like me, you're going to go into a cycle of guilt, and you're going to beat yourself up, and you're going to feel like a failure, and it's going to have you self-hating again, which is going to lead you to wanting to eat more. And it's going to be this vicious cycle that just never ends. But if we stop running to food and we start running to God, you kill that cycle. It's done. I don't go to food for comfort. Food is not my comfort. God is my comfort. Um, but be purposeful when you eat. Eat the things you love. Turn off the TV. Don't sit in front of the TV with a bag of chips. Portion out. If you're going to eat potato chips, fine. But portion them out when you buy them. Put them all in baggies, all weighed out. It'll take you 10 minutes, literally. You pour them. Take out a food scale. Everybody, I suggest you get a food scale if you don't have one. Turn it on, put your bowl on there, zero it out so it's not weighing the bowl. Pour in chips until it says 1 ounce. Take it off and pour it in a bag. Set the bowl back down. Pour it in until it says 1 ounce. Dump it in another bag. Keep going. Then you take those bags, close them all up, and throw them in a basket and put them in your cupboard or your pantry or wherever you keep your chips. And then it makes you mindful about what you're eating. Okay? Gone are the days of sitting down with a bag of Doritos and Netflix and sitting there and going, who ate all the Doritos? Oh, I guess that was me because I'm the only one home and I'm holding the bag and my hands are orange, right? So don't allow that. You have to safeguard yourself. Be mindful about it. Just be mindful, you know, get yourself a serving of chips and go eat that. Yeah, it's okay to eat chips when you're watching a movie, but eat 1 ounce, one serving, and then end it. And when you're eating it, pay attention. Do you enjoy it? Because if they're stale and they're not even enjoyable, why are you wasting your time and effort? Go get something else that you might want instead. Maybe there's cantaloupe in the fridge, or maybe there's a yogurt or sugar-free jello or something that you would rather have at that point in time. I don't waste it. I don't waste my time and effort eating foods that I don't absolutely love. I believe that God has given us taste and it is a gift. And I've abused it my whole life. But I realized that I ate a lot of food I didn't absolutely love. And I don't do that anymore. That's something that I won't do. So I enjoy my food and eat slowly. You know, use a smaller plate, first of all. So instead of using a 10-inch dinner plate, maybe use a 7 or 8 inch or 6-inch salad plate, and it will look like it has a lot more food on it. So it will make you feel like you get to eat more, but eat slowly. Set your fork down between bites. Take a sip of water. Really, really ask yourself, like, does this taste good? Am I enjoying this? Praise God for it. Say, God, thank you that I'm able to taste this and it's amazing. And, this tastes like it's fresh from a garden and it's a beautiful gift. And I praise you for that. And I'm so glad that I have this opportunity to sit here and to be mindful about what I'm eating and actually enjoy it. Um, so eat slowly. Something that I do that my kids totally pick on me for, and I don't do it out in public, but I do at home. I eat with baby silverware. So, um, all of my Facebook friends that might watch this, you guys totally knew that I was weird anyhow. Because I tell weird jokes all the time, and I'm just kind of not a normal person, but it's okay because God made me unique. But I eat with a baby spoon and fork at home. So I totally do. Um, but because I am a fast eater, like I will sit down with a 10-ounce ribeye steak and it'll be gone in like 45 seconds. So I have to safeguard myself. And this is one of the ways I do it. I use a smaller fork. You can't fit as much on a baby fork as you can fit on a normal fork. So that makes me more mindful to slow down, to take smaller bites, to chew my food up good, to maybe take a sip of water, set my fork down, really let the food settle. It takes about 20 minutes for your body to register that you've eaten. So if you take 10 minutes to eat, you could keep eating and your body hasn't even registered that you ate anything yet. So I don't suggest that because then you're going to end up eating too much. I limit myself, I set rules for myself. So I will eat a serving. So a normal serving of meat, might be 4 to 6 ounces of fish or chicken or whatever. Um, and then maybe a cup or two of vegetables on the side. And I will eat a normal serving and I will move on. And what I mean by that is I may still feel hungry when I'm done eating, but I tell myself, you just ate. So move on. Next time my stomach growls, I'm free to eat. So if that happens to be in half an hour because I really didn't eat enough and my body's requiring more, then I'm free to eat. If my stomach growls, then I'm going to go eat something and I'm free to do that. But that's something that I have learned to do is to just, I don't eat until I'm stuffed anymore. I refuse. I actually it is something that I'm sure is just for my own self that God has shown me, but because I was so guilty of trying to fill myself with food instead of God, I really kind of shy away from that full feeling. And when I eat and when I first started changing my dietary habits, something that making me look like a crazy person that I did that was really helpful is when I was eating something that normally I would have felt deprived. Like, let's say, for instance, that I am out to dinner with my family. One of my rules is when I go out to eat and I don't prepare the food myself and I there's no work for me involved in preparing the food, it has to be in line with my dietary regimen that I am on. So it has to be low carb, it has to be grain free, it has to be sugar free if I'm not preparing it myself. So that's one of my big rules. And the opposite side of that rule is if I want junk food, like say I want cake or cookies, I have to make it from scratch myself. I have to do all the work. So I will never buy pre-made cookies or cakes or anything like that. I have to make it myself. And 9 times out of 10, if I am willing to do the work to make, say, a chocolate cake, I might as well just use a sugar substitute and a flour substitute and make it completely healthy and it still tastes just as good to me. But as long as I'm putting in the work, I might as well not sabotage the effort that I've put forth already. So those are things that rules that I've put in place to really safeguard myself. Okay. So I set those rules for myself. Um, Definitely get a scale and measure and weigh everything. Another important thing when you're first starting is take measurements. I talked about weighing myself every day. There's lots of benefits to that. Like I said, I can see when I'm getting off course and I can rein it back in. If you're a person that is very obsessive and you find that if one day you've gained a pound and you're going to go, just forget it, then don't weigh every day. You have to know yourself. Um, but there is benefits in that. Take your measurements physically. Measure your arm. Take a tape measure and measure it. Measure your waist. Measure your neck. Um, these things, there are times, and there will be many times actually, where the scale does not go down, and sometimes it will even go up. But you will lose inches around your waist and inches around your neck and around your arms and legs. So that is another way to measure success. It doesn't have to all be about the scale. The scale is a liar, okay? If you are retaining fluid because you have an injury in your body somewhere, or because you're getting sick, or you didn't drink enough water, your body will retain more water. All of those things will make the scale go up, and you haven't gained any fat and you haven't gained any weight technically. So definitely take measurements, take before pictures, have somebody take some photos of you standing from the front and standing from the side, and hang on to those because there's going to come a day when you're going to turn around and you're going to see the work that God has done and it will blow your mind. I was so good at avoiding cameras when I was heavier that I didn't even have a lot of before pictures. It's only now, 3 years down the road, that people have come out of the woodwork and said, "Oh my goodness, I found a picture of you that I had taken and I didn't even know it was you." So take a before picture. That's something that I wish I had done that I didn't do because you'll be able to compare. And there will be times when you will look in the mirror and it will lie to you. You will still see there are days, and people think this is absurd, but there are days when I look in the mirror and I see every bit of 450 pounds because that mental image was so seared in my brain and I was so stuck in that and so stuck in the mind frame that I couldn't change this, that I was powerless to my addiction. And that's a lie. It's a lie because I can do all things through Christ because he will give me the strength. It's not my strength, it's his. And it's not your strength, it's his. And he's strong, right? God is strong. So just take the measurements, take the before. You don't have to show the before pictures to anybody. Okay? Keep them for yourself. Get a trusted friend that's just going to take them with your camera and then they don't even have access to them. But remember that this is your life and it's obedience to God. It's not just a quick fix diet. That's not what this is about. I I want to honor God with my food choices. And you know what? You don't have to change everything at once. Make a small change in the direction you want to go. And what I mean by that is, you know, it seems very daunting to say, I'm going to give up all grains and sugar. And I didn't do that initially. I mean, there's a lot of things in this book where I wrote all my food down, and there's lots of bread and crackers. And there were times when I ate, 4 servings of Cheez-Its in a day, and it was well within my range. But the thing is, if you make a small change, you're making a change for the better. You're eating less carbs and less calories. It will affect your body and you will lose weight. So just remember, you don't have to make the best choice, just make a better one. So if you're going to sit down to a dinner with your husband and it's your anniversary and you guys are going to have a nice dinner together and you picked a good dinner, but then he says, hey, let's get dessert. It's a celebration. Like, let's have some cheesecake or something. At that point in time, you don't have to make a better decision by saying, nope, I'm not going to have any cheesecake. And all you really are thinking about is, I want cheesecake. Have some cheesecake. But you know what? Say, hey, that sounds really good, honey, but why don't we split a piece? Or maybe he doesn't want to split a piece because, husbands, they want the whole piece of cheesecake. Well, fine. You order your cheesecake. I'll order my cheesecake. And when it comes, ask your server for a little box, a little take home box, and cut the slice in half and put half in the box and slide it over to your husband or take it to a friend tomorrow, and let your husband know, hey, you like it. Here's extra for you. If he's a food addict, don't do that. That's not love. If you give an addict what they're addicted to, that is not love, especially if that addict is trying with everything in them to abstain. That is not love to do that. Okay? I will never, if I ask somebody if they want some food and they say no, thank you, I never ask them again because you don't know what battle somebody has. Okay? If I ask somebody that is at my house, like, hey, would you like a glass of wine with our dinner? And they say, no, thank you. I'm not going to ask them a second time. I will let them know, well, you know what? If you decide you do want some, here's where you can find it. Because I don't know their story all the time. If they're a recovering alcoholic, I do not want to answer for being the person or the thing that pulled them back into their addiction. That's not love. I would never do, I wouldn't do that to my worst enemy. So I absolutely would not want to do that to a friend or a spouse or a child that is battling an addiction. So be mindful of that, okay? Not everybody can say, if I eat that bite of donut that you're offering me, I'm going to go home tonight and I'm going to eat a dozen donuts. And then I'm going to binge on something else. And I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to feel horrible. And then I'm going to go eat some more food. And then I'm going to feel even worse. And then I'm going to backtrack by 3 weeks and put on weight. And then I'm going to feel discouraged. And then I'm going to stop with all my progress. Why would you want to do that to somebody you love? Don't do that. If you don't know everybody's battles. It was so bad in the beginning that I had to tell people that I was allergic to apple pie and I was allergic to donuts. And the irony, which, God, I do believe God has a sense of humor. I don't know if it was God, but it was ironic, is about 6 months into my dietary changes, I found out I'm actually allergic to wheat. So I am allergic to pie crust and donuts and things like that. Not everybody is, but it's like people wouldn't stop asking me to partake with them unless they knew that it was it would make me sick. And that was the only time they would finally stop is because I said, "Well, I'm allergic." If I said, I'm trying not to eat grains and sugar, or I feel really convicted and I want to try and eat better. I feel like it's something that God is calling me to do. They will still, even believers, even Christians, even in your church, will still be like, "Oh, come on, it's your birthday, or it's this day, or it's a Saturday, or a Sunday, or there is." Let me tell you, there is always going to be an occasion to celebrate, and it doesn't have to be all about food. Okay? When you go out to a restaurant for your birthday, it's not about the food. It's about the person or the people that are at that table with you. It is about the time that you're spending with people that love you. It has nothing to do with the food. So, thank God for the food, but be mindful about the people and let the focus be more on the experience of spending that time with them and enjoying yourself with them. It's not about food. You have to make that switch in your brain, and ask God to do that for you. I begged God for months. God, help me to put food in its place. Help me to realize that food is not my focus. I don't want to be so focused on food that I'm missing out on relationships. I'm missing out on experiences with people. When I go out to lunch with a friend, you ask them, all I do is talk. Like, I'm running my mouth the whole time, which you guys know because I ran out of time and couldn't talk about what I'm talking about now. And I see I'm at almost an hour now of rambling. But be mindful of it. Slice that cheesecake in half. Leave a couple bites of each food group on your plate. Little things like that will add up over time. It takes 3,500 calories to equal 1 pound. So you have to eat 3,500 calories more than you burn off to gain a pound. And you have to eat 3,500 calories less than you burn to lose a pound. Now that sounds crazy because you don't even eat 3,500 calories in a day, but you burn calories by being alive. So even before you do exercise, you are burning calories just being alive. Now, there is something called a base metabolic rate, and there are calculators online. If you Google base metabolic rate calculator, you can enter your age and your height and your weight and what your activity level is. If you're sedentary, like you sit around most of the time, you have an office job, you don't do a lot of walking, put sedentary. If you're mildly active, like, maybe you're a housewife and you're doing laundry and dishes and keeping up with kids and stuff, and, you might sit down and watch a show here and there, or rest a bit and, flip through your Facebook or whatever. Then you could put mildly active or whatever, but plug that in and it will tell you the number of calories that you burn just by being alive. And when I was over 450 pounds, I burned close to 4,000 calories a day just being alive. So that means if I only ate 500 calories a day, I would have burned off 3,500 more than I was eating. I wouldn't suggest only eating 500 calories though. But if I had done that with no exercise, with nothing else, I would have lost 1 pound every day. Okay. But I didn't do that because I want to eat and I don't want to feel like I'm starving, because you can't live like that and you will not stick to a plan that is like that. So be mindful of things, make a better choice. Just little things you can do to make a better choice. Downsize your sides. If you're going to eat a burger and fries, get a small fry instead of a medium fry, or get a medium instead of a large. Swap out your regular Coca-Cola and get an unsweetened iced tea with lemon. And maybe use stevia or another sugar alternative in it, to have a sweet tea. But that's a better choice. Those calories will add up over time. Now, people say, oh, you lost 250 pounds. Like, that's a lot of weight. But it took me 2 years, which people say, well, that's still fast. I lost 130 pounds the first year, and I lost 120 pounds the second year. But what you don't realize is I lost 2 to 3 pounds a week. That's it. 2 pounds in a week was my average. Anybody can do that. Okay. 2 pounds in a week, that's 500 calories a day that you need to burn off more than what you eat. So if you're 400 pounds, you're burning 3,000 calories being alive. So if you eat 2,500 calories and that's it every day, you'll lose 2 pounds in a week. Simple as that. So it's not that, it's little changes, just shaving off little bits here and there. And don't be afraid to behave like the person you want to be. When I was 450 pounds, I was very sedentary. I didn't walk a lot, I didn't do a lot because I was heavy and I was in pain and it was hard. But I wanted to be healthy. And I started to watch people that were healthy and people that were thinner. And I started to notice things about them. I noticed that a cousin of mine who's very thin and very active, I would notice that she would eat like a hot fudge sundae with like Oreo cookies all over it and hot fudge and caramel and whipped cream and a cherry. And I would think to myself, this is so unfair that she's so thin. Like, I look at that and I gain 10 pounds. So I think that's so unfair. But what I then noticed is I never saw her eat anything like that again for at least another month. So she didn't do this every week or every other day. And I also noticed that for 3 or 4 meals, a day or two after she ate that really heavy meal, she ate a lot of salad and she ate a lot of light stuff. She would eat zucchini squash, or summer squash and zucchini stir fry with other vegetables and some chicken breast. And she would eat a salad with a scoop of tuna fish on top of it, or, just light meals. And I asked her one day, I said, why are you eating so much light stuff? And she said, well, the fudge sundae was so heavy that it made me feel heavy and it made me feel kind of tired. So I didn't want to eat anything heavy because I don't want to feel lethargic and tired from it. So, and that had me thinking, that's interesting. And I also noticed that thin people or healthier people, that they were active. They were more active. They didn't let clothes pile up. They would do a load of laundry every day or every other day. Well, I would wait until once a week and then gather up all the strength I had to wash all the clothes. And then I was out of commission for a day and a half afterwards because I was so exhausted from all the physical activity. So just little things like that. If you need to run something from the living room into the kitchen, don't stack dishes up on your end table and then take them all at once at the end of the night. Get up and go put the dish away because you know what? You're going to burn like 50 calories just walking to the kitchen and back. And then you're going to have a clean house, which is going to make you feel lighter and make you feel free to go, you know what? Since I don't have to clean this whole house, maybe I'll go for a walk. When I first started, I walked a quarter of a mile and it took me almost 2 hours. 2 hours. And I was crying. And my son was very angry with me because he was like, this is crazy. Like, you keep sitting down on benches and, this isn't far. This shouldn't be this hard. Um, and this same child 3 years later will not go for a walk with me because I walk 15 miles at once. And in 2 hours, I can walk about 8 miles. And it took me that long to walk a quarter of a mile. So just start small. You don't have to go out and walk 20 miles. Like just walk around your block. Just tell yourself, you know what? Every day after dinner, I'm going to go for a walk. And if it's cold, put on an extra coat, put on a scarf, grab your dog, grab your spouse, grab one of your kids. Say, hey, you want to go for a walk? Maybe we can talk about your day tonight. I mean, look for those connections, look for those habits that are good that you can build. If you replace sitting at, maybe after dinner you sit and watch TV until you go to bed. Well, find something else that you can do that you love to do. Maybe go for a walk or, um, you know, maybe you want to listen to music. Well, take your music on your walk. When I walk, I listen to lots of sermons and I listen to praise music and, sometimes I'll listen to audiobooks. It just depends on my mood, but it's not wasted time. I'm getting exercise and I'm also sometimes learning from a book or getting scripture in me or learning something through a sermon or a message or just praising God and enjoying my time and listening to music. So behave like the person you want to be. If you want to be more godly, spend more time with God. If you want to be more active, force yourself to get up. Set an alarm. Maybe every hour you stand up and walk in place for 2 minutes. Anybody can do that. Maybe you just lift your arms up because you're in a wheelchair and you can't get up and walk. Exercise your arms, lift cans of soup. You don't have to bench press 150 pounds to make a difference. Any little bit of activity will make a huge difference. And little by little, as you do this, you will be able to increase that over time and do more and more. and you will find that that exercise becomes an outlet for you. People have often said to me, you're so dedicated. Like I see you out there walking in the snow and the rain and it's crazy. You got that dog with you and I see you all over town. And there have been times when people will say, I saw you 3 different times today out walking. And it on the outside that looks like somebody who's really dedicated, and I am dedicated because I love God and because he has made a change in my brain and I want to be obedient to him and I want to please him. But those days when I was out walking 3 times, what these people didn't know are is that those were the days that I struggled the hardest not to give in to my addiction, because walking became that outlet. When I would eat lunch during the day and my kids were at school, if I didn't have a busy schedule and I had to go from lunch to dinner without eating anything, it was too hard sometimes. And I would have to get up and just leave the house and I would walk. And I noticed that when I was walking, I was tempted sometimes and I would go into stores and buy food as I was out walking. So then I started taking my dog with me because they don't allow dogs in the stores. And so these people that think, oh, you walk for 2 hours this morning and now you're out for an hour and a half tonight. No, these are days that I need prayer. Those are days that I left my house in tears sometimes because I wanted to eat more food and I knew that I shouldn't and I wasn't hungry. And I just had to leave. I had to go and walk until I was so physically exhausted that all I could do was come home and flop on the couch and drink water the rest of the night. It's not that I was so strong or that I was so dedicated. It a lot of times is because I was so weak. But I knew that I was weak and I knew that I needed to get away from food because I couldn't say no. And I still have days like that. And there are days when I have to say to my children, like, I need to leave right now and go for a walk because I'm really struggling today. And I ate dinner and I am going to be up for another 3 hours and it's too hard and I'm going to have to leave. And my kids used to kind of fight it at first. Like they didn't want me to go. They're just like, come on, you're gone too long. But over time, they realized that it was such a spiritual thing for me to get out and walk because that time while I was struggling, I was praying. I was talking to God and I was begging Him to give me strength and pouring my heart out to Him a lot of times. And God is faithful and He loves me. And it blows my mind that He loves me, but He does. And He loves all of His children. And He wants what's best for us. And He wants us to run to Him. And He doesn't want us to run to food or to drugs or to alcohol or to sex or to pornography or whatever addiction. He doesn't want us to bury ourselves in our work and bury ourselves in raising our children because we don't want to come to terms with whatever we're addicted to. He wants us to come to Him. And that is ultimately the biggest change that I made or that God made in me, is that I started to run to Him when I struggled. I used to be of the frame of mind that if I ate a cookie, well, I messed up. I'm done. It's over with. I might as well go eat a cake and then I might as well eat some donuts and then I might as well eat some chips. No, no, this is your life. This isn't a day or a month or a year of changing your diet. This is your life and your living sacrifice to God on how you're treating your body and what you're putting into it and what you're allowing it to do. You can easily sin against God by being overly healthy and overly conscious about food and being anorexic and refusing to eat. That is just as sinful and just as bad for your body and just as abusive to your body as eating too much or doing drugs or drinking too much alcohol. But you need to know yourself and you need to be honest with yourself about where you are and where you want to be. Okay? You have to remember you don't have to change everything at once. This is not a sprint. You're not going to get over this quickly. This is your life. Okay? Don't deprive yourself and set yourself up for failure and binge. I used to have that mentality that I messed up and then I would go binge. Now I still fail. Okay? We're human. You will fail. You will fall. Okay? But don't stay down. Get back up. Reach your hand up to God and ask him to pull you back up. Okay? If you are a believer, you have been pulled out of the pit. Okay? God can pick you back up after eating cheesecake or a cookie or drinking alcohol or shooting up heroin. He can pull you back out of that. Just run to him. Ask him to pull you out of that, okay? But don't deprive yourself of food. Food is a natural thing. Your body requires it, okay? And it's a natural thing to want to eat food that you like the taste of. That's not wrong. Don't deprive yourself, but be mindful of it. If you're craving chocolate, break off a square and suck on it and enjoy it and make it last. You don't have to eat 5 chocolate bars at once. And you don't have to tell yourself, you know what, I ate chocolate, I went over my carbs, I went over my calories for the day. Oh, well, I messed up. No, the day's not over. Your journey's not over. Your life is not over. It's a piece of chocolate or a chocolate bar. So what? You made a bad decision. We're going to make bad decisions. And sometimes we're going to make bad decisions on purpose. Sometimes you're going to say, you know what, I don't care. And you're going to make a bad choice. Don't stay there. Don't stay making the bad choices. Make your next decision a better one. Okay? So if you have too much cake one night and then you're offered dessert the next night, just say, you know what? I had enough last night to last me a week. And you can laugh it off, but it's the truth. So maybe you don't have that for a week. Maybe you don't have it for 2 weeks. Maybe you realize that certain foods are triggers. Okay? I have trigger foods. Crackers, donuts, those are triggers for me. I am not one that can eat a handful of Cheez-Its. I like them too much. And when I have them, I crave them. And so I have found over time now that if I just don't have them, I don't crave them. And I actually make my own Cheez-Its out of almond flour and sharp cheddar cheese, and they taste almost as good, and they still do that salty, rich craving in me. They satisfy that, and I don't gain weight, and I don't go over my carbs, and I'm not cheating, so I don't have to feel like I sabotaged myself, and then I don't have to ruin the rest of my day by eating worse things. So just make your choices, but don't be afraid that if you fall, just God will pick you back up again, okay? It's not the end of it. This is your journey. Your journey's not over until you're with the Lord. So if you're still here, fight. Fight that addiction, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be food, but whatever it is, fight it. You're human, you will fall, okay? That's the bottom line. But so I just wanted to share some of those tips and tricks on everything. I'm just looking at my papers to make sure that I did actually go over everything I intended to. The only thing left that I might not is guard yourself against falling back. And that's another thing with the trigger foods. Don't eat those foods if they're going to send you spiraling downward, eating badly for a week. Okay? So guard yourself about that. A way to guard yourself is with those meal preps. Something else, when I talked about portioning out your snacks, here's a picture of snacks that I have all bagged up, and I actually wrote the calories on them just so I would remember. But I have those in the fridge. They're easy to get at. So along with my restaurant rule of if it's junk, you have to make it myself, my other rule is that I always have healthy foods cleaned and ready to eat. So celery, carrots, broccoli, cucumbers with ranch and um, berries are low in carb. I have in this picture, I have a bunch of various veggies. I even have some sandwiches right there that are on a protein wrap that's low carb. So if I am starving and I'm out and running around shopping and I forgot to bring anything with me, generally I can talk myself out of stopping at McDonald's by saying, you know what? I got that sandwich in the fridge at home and I've got some cheese and I got veggies and dip and some fruit and things because they're ready and accessible. I'm going to grab those first. So when you look in my fridge, you're not going to see vats of cake and cookies and cheesecake and things. I do have cheesecakes in my freezer though, but they're low carb and sugar free. So keeping with the guarding yourself against failure, know your limits. If you're an alcoholic, don't spend your time in bars. If you're an addict of pornography, have somebody monitor what you look at online. You need to block certain websites so that you can't access them. These are just safeguards. And the same thing with food addiction. You need to set yourself up for success. If you, what is the saying? If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And it's kind of true. So it doesn't require a lot of effort though. I will make a big meal once a week and meal prep it, and I might cook dinner one night and it might be vegetable soup. I can totally eat that. That's low carb naturally. Or if we have meatloaf one night and I don't put breadcrumbs in it, I might add flaxseed or chia seed to help bind it together like the breadcrumbs would. My kids don't even know the difference. They have no clue that the meatloaf has ever changed the recipe. They just think that I'm like splurging a little bit, I guess, with the breadcrumbs, but I'm not. They have no idea it changed. But do things like that. So I have nights where I might be able to eat what we're having for dinner, and so I'm not eating my meal prep. And then the next week when I make them, I might still have five or six of one meal prep, and then I make another one. And then after a while, you're going to have a freezer full of various meals. So you're not going to have to force yourself to eat the same thing all the time, but I would definitely recommend that in the beginning because it helps you to stop viewing food as a reward or something to look forward to, and it makes you bored with the food. Therefore, you only eat it when you're really actually hungry. So I do think that's really a good thing. But make healthy foods available to yourself. When you come home with vegetables and fruit, chop them up and portion them out and have them ready in the fridge. Show it to your kids. A lot of times when the parents have bad eating habits, the kids do too, and my kids did. And I used to yell at them when I first started doing this because they would eat all my cantaloupe. And I'm like, there's a half a cantaloupe in there. Like, go in there and cut the skin off and stuff. And they're like, yeah, but this was already chopped up into little bite sized pieces. So it just got to a point where if I bought grapes or whatever, I would just wash them all, dry them, bag them all up, and then everybody could eat whatever. But um, it makes it easier. And it also makes it easier if you're keeping track of your food in a book or on an app and you're logging it because you're only weighing and measuring those things one time and then it's done for the week or done for 2 weeks. Some of these snacks can last weeks. Things like cheddar cheese. I would cut them up into half-ounce cubes, and 1 ounce was a serving, so I could have two of those for one serving. But just set yourself up for success. Don't stand in the bakery and tell yourself you can't have donuts. Don't go there. Just don't even go to a bakery, you know? And don't be afraid to tell your friends, today is a really hard day. And I know that you want to go eat lunch at the Cheesecake Factory, but I'm really struggling and I'm not sure I can handle seeing people eating cheesecake and refuse it. So maybe we should go somewhere else. Let's go to a steakhouse, because I can eat steak and people aren't going to tempt me with that, and we'll just tell the server not to bring the rolls to the table, right? But safeguard yourself, guard your heart, as the Bible says. We have to put up parameters and boundaries for ourselves to make it easier to be obedient to God. You don't have to make it hard on yourself. Try to make things easier. Um, Something else I did is I started keeping all of my shoes in my bedroom. Now that sounds weird, but my bedroom is up like 14 steps. And so anytime I needed to leave the house, I would have to run up those steps and go get my shoes. I was burning extra calories. Before long, I was running up and down those stairs all the time without even being winded. So, little steps, little things that you can do that will affect a big change over time. So, I thank you guys so much. If you bared with me this entire hour and 20 minutes with me blabbering, I'm shocked if you actually did, but if you did, thank you. But these are some of the things that have really worked for me that I have implemented and that I will probably utilize the rest of my life. They have been life changing for me. But definitely take your picture before. That's one regret I have. And take your picture every month or every 2 months or something because you will be able to hold those pictures up against each other and really see a difference. And sometimes that's all you need is to see that it's making a difference, you know? And you think that, oh, day to day, time flies. And something that my mom shared with me before she passed away was she said, do you know what you're going to be in 5 years? And I said, no, what do you mean? And she said, you're going to be 5 years older. And I thought, well, that's stupid. Like, duh, you know? But then she said something very profound to me. She said, but it's up to you if you're going to be 100 pounds heavier in 5 years or if you're going to be 100 pounds lighter. Like, what are you going to choose? What do you want? And I thought, well, that's not my choice because I can't help it. I've been fat my whole life and I can't help it. But that's not true. I wasn't powerless. I have the Holy Spirit. I can do anything. I wasn't powerless to my addiction. I was choosing to let my addiction win. And as soon as I rose up and allowed God to raise up in me and to say, you know what? This isn't good enough for me. I'm better than this. I'm better than weighing 450 pounds. I'm better than hurting when I'm in my 30s. I'm not in my 30s anymore. I was in my late 30s. But, I'm better than that. I deserve better than that. I belong to the creator of the universe. Like, I deserve the best of everything. And you know what? Yeah, it's expensive to eat healthy, but it's expensive to be on medication and to be diabetic and to be achy and to have to buy muscle rub and Tylenol and Aleve and it's all expensive and it's hard to keep track of everything you're eating. But it's hard to walk when you're 450 pounds. Pick your heart. It's all hard. Just pick your heart. What do you want at the end of the day? Who do you want to be? Because what stands between who you are and who you want to be is what you do. That's it. So I thank you for listening and bearing with me. I hope that you guys realize that you can do this. God is no respecter of persons. If He has done this for me and in me and for me and with me, He'll do it with you. He'll do it with food. He'll do it with alcohol. He'll do it with drugs. He will do it with everything that you turn to when you should be going to Him. And He will get rid of all of it for you, with you. And He will uphold you through it. And it will be worth it. It will all be worth it. Trust me on that. It is so worth it. I still pinch myself some days when I wake up and nothing hurts on my body. And when I go for a physical at the doctor and they say nothing about my weight, they don't tell me to lose weight. And I'm still a little overweight, but I used to dread going to the doctors because that's all they talked about was my weight and how I was setting myself up for disease. And the truth of the matter is, everything that you eat and drink is either feeding disease or fighting it. And you're choosing that for your body. If you have cancer, cancer is everywhere now. If you have that in your family, you're already predisposed to it, or you're predisposed to diabetes, you're feeding that disease in your body by what you choose to eat and drink. So be mindful of that. So I want to leave you on a positive note. I want to leave you with the fact that you are not powerless to addiction, especially if you know Jesus as your Lord and Savior. You are not powerless to anything. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. You have the strength within you. And I believe that you'll do it. And I would love to connect with anybody that watches this video. I'm on Facebook. I will put my name in the title, or you'll see it, I guess, Tina Halstead. So if you want to find me on Facebook, do it. I'm always willing to coach people and to, coach in the sense of root you on and help you when you're struggling, and, maybe come up with some ideas of things that you can try differently, that if certain things aren't working. I'm always willing to do that. I'm always willing to stop and to pray with somebody. Absolutely. Um, for that strength and that determination to continue. You are valuable and you are worth working hard for. You are worth spending a little extra money to get good quality, nutritious food into your body. You're worth that. You are. You're priceless. Your value is unimaginable. I mean, there is nobody else in this universe like you or like me. Never has been, never will be. We are all individuals made in the image of a mind blowing, amazing, incredible God that loves us and wants to see us eating healthy and being healthy and loving Him and giving Him honor and glory for all that He gives us. So I wish you guys the grace of God and the blessing of knowing who you belong to, and that you're worth making these changes. And they may seem hard, but they don't have to all come at once. Take baby steps. Take a small step in the right direction. And one day you're going to turn around and you're just going to say, how did this even happen? I mean, there's times when I see pictures of myself now and I don't even know that it's me. Like, it doesn't even occur to me. And I say, am I really that small now? I mean, and then there's other days when I'm like, am I really that fat? Because your brain will play tricks on you. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I look like. God, it doesn't matter. It matters if I did my best and if I tried to honor God that day. So try to honor God with your decisions, all of them. The way that you treat people, the way that you respond to people, the foods that you eat, the things that you look at, the things that you say. Just let it all be God honoring, right? So I will keep you guys. I thank you for giving me this opportunity. Sorry it was so long. I don't know how to edit photos or videos. It's not a photo. I don't know how to edit videos, so it's just gonna be what it is. So, all right, I will see you guys on Facebook. If you want to get a hold of me, do it that way. And I look forward to hearing from anybody if this stuff helped you, or if it worked for you, or if it doesn't. Maybe I have some other ideas that I've tried that didn't work for me that may work for you. Always willing to share what's worked for me and what I've tried. So, all right, so good night and thank you.